Hi everyone, welcome to Songsalive Song Sessions. My name is Jilly Moon. So excited to have you today. And we have a very special guest today, Cat Cohen, who has joined us. I am going to pass it over to Rick Lawrence, who's going to introduce our guest speaker. Hi, Rick.
Hi. David Cat Cohen is a longtime ASCAP and NARAS songwriter, composer, author, teacher, and blogger with songs recorded by Cheryl Lynn, Syreeta, Freddie, Hubbard, and Diddley, as well as cuts featured in the HBO movie The Rat Pack and the Universal feature film Undercover Brother. His children's operetta, The Not So Great Escape, was commissioned by the Opera Pacific and performed in schools throughout Southern California. His CD of jazzy-bluesy originals, Songs of Survival and Sweet Surrender, was highly rated in Keyboard magazine. Tonight's topic is the importance of defining one's genre when marketing one's songs. This would include the importance of defining exactly what the song is about and where it fits into the market, such as pop, rock, alternative, country, Americana, etc. When writing and marketing songs, you need to know exactly where it fits. Under what type of music would your audience find you when searching the web? Another way of saying this is when you win your Grammy, in the what category would you find it?
Fantastic.
Okay, very good.
Welcome, Cat.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And I'm so pleased to be here. And I'm very impressed by the quality of the songwriting. So anyway, I am speaking to you and I just oh, it's backwards, but you'll see it anyway. Okay. That's Zoom, this is what happens. Okay, I have a re-release of my song, of my book, Writing and Marketing Songs for Original Act. And it's a little updated and it's in a new format. And I'll be speaking about the things that are in the book because that's the topic we're talking about. Is like, it's one thing to write songs. We write songs out of inspiration, out of what happens in our lives, what motivates us. It's another thing to write a song or to pick out of the songs we've written which ones we want to send to market, which ones that we need to find a potential audience for. Not everything we write is audience oriented. It could be self-oriented. But out of what we write, then we look for places in the world that people would like to hear it, that our message is something that people would want to hear. So I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. These are the questions that I ask. I consult for songwriters all the time. And I always ask, is like, well, who are you writing this for? What is the intention here? So I'm going to start with a bunch of questions. And all this is outlined in my book. So if you find material that I'm talking about and you want to know more about it, my book is available at Amazon. It's Writing and Marketing Songs, and then subtitle is for Original Act. So first of all, and if you guys want to participate, feel, I want to know, first question I ask is what kind of act are you? Now, this is either for you writing for yourself or what kind of act are you writing for? And whether it's an original act, even if you're writing for an established recording act, you want to know what kind of act they are. So here's 3 categories, and you need to decide which one is your category. 1, are you a solo singer-songwriter? Because that's a whole body of performers out there. Are you a small combo, like a duo or trio? Or are you a full band? And that's important in terms of marketing. Obviously, if you're going to try to perform places, there's certain, like a coffee house is going to want to have a solo songwriter at most 2 or 3 people. They don't have room or the acoustics for a full band. If you're going to an arena, that's much more appropriate for a full band. Now, here's an important question. What makes you or the act you are performing for original? What sets you apart from others, or what sets the song apart from others? Is it, one of them is the original message? Is it the lyrics? There are some people who, and some acts that are known for lyrics. Paul Simon from Simon and Garfunkel, those incredible lyrics. Obviously the Beatles, but the Beatles, they get plus grades in every department. But certain acts are known for their words and their messages. Original point of view or attitude. If you're a Shania Twain fan, she was the woman's, strong woman. That was her attitude. Lady Gaga would not exist without attitude. There's a lot of acts. Prince has got a lot of attitude. Okay, naughty boy. Original music. Some acts, the strength of the act is their music. Radiohead, Dave Matthews Band. You all have your favorites of their acts. Their lyrics are okay, but it's the music that really puts them. Coldplay, for instance. Okay. Original sound, instrumentation, or production. Is that what the strength is? So some of your new age people, it's like it's the quality of the sound that makes it radio playable. And the lyrics are less important, although everything is important. And then with certain performers, it's the original vocal style. Do you think Adele just has sort of a unique voice? do you think who did from the Titanic? Celine Dion. Okay, Barbara Streisand. There's certain artists, it's their voice that sets them apart. So look at yourself or who you're writing for. If you're writing for a unique voice, you better write a wide range that shows off the voice. By the way, my book that I wrote, it started when I was working at Musicians Institute, and they had so many people that wanted, young people that wanted to be original acts, they wanted to be performers, and they didn't know how to write for themselves. So I started the book helping them write for themselves, because a lot of these were great singers and they wrote songs with a 5-note range. And it's like Barbara Streisand would say, if you showed that to me, it wouldn't even tickle my throat. It's like, I've developed all this artistry and you're not allowing me to show it. And yet you might have a rock and roll singer who's got a 5-note range, and you better not give him 12. I had a song that I almost got recorded by Kenny Rogers. And the people were really interested. It was called Honey Touch Me Gentle Tonight. And song has a 2-octave range. Kenny Rogers does not have a 2-octave range. And they were recording that weekend. And there was no time for me to rewrite it. So I pitched a song that didn't fit, even though they loved everything else. So it's like when you're writing songs for established acts or for anybody or for yourself, you have to adapt the song to your particular needs. And okay, the next thing is very interesting. How original are you? There are some acts that are by their nature revolutionary. They're in a league of their own. Nobody could touch them. I would say Prince is definitely revolutionary. Nobody else, you can't have a Prince clone. Michael Jackson was very unique. David Bowie, revolutionary. And if that's your strength, then you must encourage the revolution. You don't want to be like other people, you want to feature. But those are harder acts to sell, but they can be the most important. And even the Rolling Stones, they were kind of rebels. Next is evolutionary. There's certain acts that are progressive within certain genres that are well known. Stevie Wonder, I wouldn't call a revolutionary, but he certainly took R&B to new places. Joni Mitchell took folk music to new places. There's a lot of evolutionary performers. And if that's what your strength is, then really, the Beatles in many ways were evolutionary. They would take known styles and expand upon them and make something that we hadn't heard within that genre. They were masters at that. Okay, then there are acts that are familiar but distinctive. Jackson Browne did not set the world on fire with new music. He did country rock. He still does country rock, but he does it with his own unique touch. So he, as Van Morrison, not a revolutionary, but within his style, he always added certain things to it. So you want to know if that's your strength, is that you add quality and you add certain touches, but you're not going to set the world on fire with new music. Well, that's your appeal. Some people are looking for something really weird and different. Some people want something a little more conventional. What you don't want to be and what you don't want to write, I call familiar and indistinctive. In other words, anyone could have written it. It's a Hallmark card. Well, why would anyone pick your song over anyone else? Well, if your uncle happens to be in the record business, maybe they might feature your song, but you would need very strong connections. And if your writing is familiar but indistinctive, what reason in the market would someone choose yours? But if you had, a lot of promotion, a lot of photo shoots, maybe they could take an act that is not distinctive. Okay, more important, who is your audience? What age range do you write for? Do you write for kids? Well, if you're a children's song person, and you can make money writing for children. Teenagers. Who was a really teenage-oriented artist? Avril Lavigne. Avril Lavigne. How about Weezer? How about, there's a lot of acts, Blink 132. There's a lot of acts that are really for the adolescents of the world. Adults would find it not intelligent enough, and the hormones weren't raging enough or whatever, but definitely, or do you write for young adults? Do you write for the college age? A lot of us, we singer-songwriters have that appeal, have that intellectual. We had a protest song here. So when you're writing for young adults, like Simon and Garfunkel did, it's thinking and pushing the envelope. So is that your appeal, is for young adults? There's adult styles. Country music is not for kids. Country music is about adult situations, about marriages that are having problems. It's about alcoholism. It's about truckers on the deep end, or truckers having fun. But it's not for kids. It's not for teenagers. And the country audience, by and large, is an adult audience. I say R&B is also pretty much an adult style. And then there's oldsters. And you might write for oldsters. There's not much of a market. Although didn't Rod Stewart do a whole album of standards? And of course, I'm performing for oldsters. I am one myself. So I have ethos when I go to these old age homes and senior centers and care centers and hospitals. But I don't write songs that are about aging. Although, I have a couple of friends who have. Well, then you have to, it's a niche market. And we'll talk about niche in a second. Okay, next thing, who is your audience? And this is very funny. If you were performing, what do people drive when they come to see you perform? If they drive BMWs and Lamborghinis and Lexuses, they're affluent. So you, therefore, in your writing, you must be appealing to that audience. You have those images in your lyrics. You have the sophistication in your music. Steely Dan audience would be doing that. Anita Baker, who did R&B. It's for the expensive condo, not the cheap condo. And so if that's who you connect with, fine. Middle class, working class, okay? Obviously, you're Bruce Springsteen. You don't write about affluence. You write about working class who are trying to make it through. Trying to think. Living on a Prayer. Bon Jovi, I think, very much working class. We got to get out of this place. A lot of the rock and roll is about rebels. So you'll have working class. And then there's middle class. The Carpenters, they're about people who are comfortable, okay? They're not people that are poor and not people that are rich. They're in the middle. Now, this is important. Do you write for social insiders or do you write for rebels? If there's a white picket fence, which side of the fence is your audience? Which side of the fence are you on? Which side of the fence? Well, it's not so much where you are on, it's what you write. Are you right about protecting what you have? Or you write about the chain link fence in the schoolyard and, you know, or the prison or whatever. You see what's out there and you're envious or you wish you had. So that's determining your audience. Your audience is attracted to you because you speak for them. Okay, do you write for winners or do you write for losers? Are you a winner or a loser? Now, it's not so much whether you are in real life as what do your songs say? Do you celebrate what you have? Or are you envious of others or bemoan what you don't have? Or have you had it and you lost it and you're wallowing in your, oh my God, either I lost the boyfriend or I lost my house or I lost my status in society, or am I a social climber? Am I on the way up and am I trying to impress? Well, these are all the different things that people, they turn to movies, they turn to songs, they turn to performers for people who have the message that they relate to. I mean, I'm a big fan of Netflix and there's all these shows that attract different people for different reasons. Oh, and here's a good one. Are you a good or a bad person? Is your act a good person or a bad person? Back in the 50s, and 60s, if you had a girl group, were they good girls or were they bad girls? Okay, so they would dress the act either very prim and wholesome, or they would ba-ba boom it and make them flaunt it. I mean, R&B is most of the acts are so sexually suggestive, not all. And that's important in terms of your songwriting, is like, are you talking about it? Are you talking about being good and leading a good life? Or are you talking about just letting it all hang out? I think, did someone have a song about going to hell today? Well, that was not the good girl. All right. And then there's a good person going bad, and there's a bad person redeeming going good. These are all important parts of who you are as an act and who you are as a songwriter and who you connect with your audience. So this leads into genre. And in each genre, you have good or bad, winners and losers. First genre is pop. And of course, that's the American songbook, and that reaches, or used to reach, the widest audience and also stays around the longest. They're more universal. Then there's rock. rock tends to have rebel built into it. Not all rock. There's goody two shoes rock, but not very much. You go to a rock concert, you're not going to sit and be very proper. You're going to let it all hang out. That's why you're going. And you might even imbibe or take something to help you let it hang out, because it's not the, I don't advocate it, but nevertheless, that's the reality. Of course, in my old days, that's a different story. Are you modern rock? Are you classic rock? Are you alternative rock? Think of the radio stations and how they program. They program for audiences. I remember I worked with a really good producer who produced a couple songs I had with Freddie Hubbard. And he would talk about certain rock bands in major that were more victorious, and rock bands in minor that were much more moody. And of course, you got your slit your wrist rock. You have your bad to the bone, George Thorogood, and you have all different types of everything in between. So that's partly what you want to define, because when you have a song or you write a body of song, you want to connect with people looking for something to support their point of view. Of course, country, we talked about that earlier when we were critiquing songs. Country is an adult audience. Country tends to be a little more conservative in lifestyle and a little more conservative in politics, although there aren't too many political country songs. It's more personal stuff. And it's got a large audience, but if you're going to sell to Nashville, you got to be very much in that vernacular. I went to Nashville and they loved my lyrics, but too much of my music was a little too hip for them. They had too many seventh chords. They had just a little bit too jazzy R&B, even though the sentiment was there. So you have to have the elements that fit the genre. Now, there are probably a couple artists that cross over. Well, I could sell to them, but I couldn't sell to Nashville. Also, I'm from LA, and they tend to like homegrown Tennessee and Southern people more than the big city slickers. Okay, R&B-hip-hop. Okay, that's a genre aimed at urban, contemporary, and Black audiences. And there are certainly there's a lot of open sensuality and even sexuality in R&B. There's also a lot of wonderful emotion. My background that I've had most of my songs recorded have been in the R&B spectrum, because I love soul music. I always have. And I was in blues, and blues grew into soul music. And then hip hop took it further, and then you have rap. And so that's a genre. And so to reach a rap audience, you got to have the rap style, and you got to have the message. You got to have concerns that the people in rap are interested in what's happening in their neighborhoods and their world and their kind of grievances and their blues. Blues is a classic. Again, I remember I mentioned or was mentioning, where are you going to get your Grammy? Think of when they give the Grammys, they have each category for Grammys. You can get a Grammy for blues. You can get a Grammy for traditional blues or contemporary blues. So in blues, yes, you're getting your worries off your chest. You have certain things that are important to you. As far as gospel is a genre. And there's religious, contemporary gospel, there's traditional gospel. There's a large Christian music market. And you don't have to have all songs about Jesus, but you can have songs that have spiritual themes. Amy Grant was someone who did something that would kind of crossed over. Jazz. Now, that's my background. I'm a jazzer. It's not, you don't make as much money. It's a narrower niche, but there are jazz people looking for new songs. There are jazz audiences looking for new acts and new songs. Uh, I have a very good friend, Mark Winkler, who's making, I used to write with him and I've known him for a long time. He's got his 7th jazz album out and he's writing the jazz charts and not making a great career, but he's making money doing what he loves. So there is a genre. And then there's dance and electronica. There's a whole world of dance music. And if that's your interest and your strength, I think someone here, we were talking about grooves. Well, then you look for people looking for new groove music. And I wouldn't write love songs for that audience. I remember during the disco era, the rule was don't ever write about a relationship that lasts longer than 24 hours. So it was, of course, things have changed for some people, for some it hasn't. But the dance music is more immediate needs, immediate gratification, and it's feel good. Electronica, that can go, that has an audience too. And you get to ambient music with that. You get Portishead, you get acts that have a certain sound and production quality. And there are people looking for stuff like that. There's Hispanic music. Boy, there's a lot of Hispanic songs, a lot of Hispanic song buyers. There's world music, which is an interest of mine. And so there's ethnic music from all around the world. And there are, there's within world music, there's rap in every language. There's all sorts of, these are smaller markets. Sometimes the smaller the market, the easier it is to sell. You don't have as much competition and you focus in that direction. And then there's Americana. That's not quite country. That's a little older than, so that's Nickelback. And there's a bunch of acts that do this bluegrass or contemporary bluegrass. And they have shows on TV. There's clubs and places all over the country. So you may want to do that. And then there is mixed genres. Mixed genres are harder to sell. I call it the Starbucks approach. It's your custom blend. It takes a lot of strength and perseverance to do that. It's harder to sell, but then again, some people are looking for that, something that has that uniqueness. And then I have now, you've heard of astrology. I'm going to do now several core messages, and then I'll open things up for discussion. Okay, now this is like your astrological sign. You have a sun sign, you have your moon sign, your rising, and then your planets. Well, there may be one of these messages that nails you to completely. Another one that is sort of like you. There might be some of these messages that are not like you. I know I have 2 of these that are very strong with me. So let's start with the first one. Life is good. Let's be thankful. Some people write that. Stevie Wonder sometimes write that. A lot of your gospel music does that. There's a few acts that have a positive outlook on life. And that's what your quality is. Unfortunately, I don't write those kind of songs. I've had more struggle in my life. I'm getting more thankful as I get older, but that's not my, as a songwriter or as a performer, that's not my strength. Second is life is a holiday. Let's party. Okay, some of us, that's what we like. That's what we write about. And boy, there's an audience for party songs, whether it's in the Caucasian community, or whether it's Latino, or whether it's in the Black community. In all communities like to party in their own way. You know, Kool and the Gang was let's celebrate, let's all that funk stuff was very, very party oriented. And today you got lots of it. There's always a need for it. Okay, life is disappointing. Let's commiserate. I'm sure there's quite a few people here who could relate to that, at least at one point in their life, especially when you have a relationship and it breaks up. Isn't that a time when you write songs? So, and people want to hear stuff like that. Again, I said Netflix earlier. Look at how much Netflix is, some of their soap operas and some of their series are about disappointments. And, you know, we want to cry our tears. We want to commiserate, know that we're not alone in our sadness. And there are certain acts that do that. Linda Ronstadt did a lot of those kind of songs. Joni Mitchell would not have made it without that kind of material. In country music, Rascal Flatts, they did a lot of that kind of stuff. The fourth one is Life is a Struggle, Let's Fight. And some people just have this attitude and they want to fight. And people want fight songs. People want that reinforced. And there's plenty of acts that do that. And then you can even get to more than that. Life shortchanges us. Let's get revenge. Ever hear of the Dixie Chicks? They had plenty of songs like that. Half of your rap songs are about getting revenge. I don't advocate it. It's not my message, but there's a lot of it out there, and the world's full of revenge seekers. And so that's a message. And there are people looking for a lot of the rock bands, Nine Inch Nails, and with the Osbourne. Anyway, there's a bunch of it out there. Then there's one, and this is my champion. Life is an uphill battle. Let's join forces. And this is getting through the obstacles. Certainly, Bono and U2 has been about that a lot. There's a lot of acts that talk about getting to the other side of their problems. My album was Songs of Survival and Sweet Surrender. That was my niche. That was my message. Okay, next one is Life is Relationships. Let's love each other. Well, there's a lot of that. Certainly, some people are best at writing love songs. We had a couple of them here today. And there's always a need for love songs. There are certain, like the Hallmark channel is full of that. One of my favorite Netflix shows is Heartland, and they always have heartfelt kind of romantic songs. They also have conflict in romance as well. And the last one is Life is a Spiritual Journey. Let's transform ourselves. You got Enya, you got the New Age people. You have even some regular acts write those kind of songs. R. Kelly wrote a song called I Believe I Can Fly. It wasn't typical for him, but he wrote a transformational song. The Beatles wrote Beyond the Universe. They went through spiritual. Beatles wrote everything. They had they went from one extreme to the other. But anyway, all of this are basic messages, and you want to ask, what's my strongest message? What's another message I can relate to? What are some of those that are just not me at all? And so that helps you define who you are. In other words, for whom are you a spokesperson? Who's going to want a picture of you on their wall? Who's going to want your bumper sticker? Who's going to want your bobblehead doll? Who's going to want the merchandise that says, yeah, this person says what I feel? You know, Bob Dylan was a spokesperson for a lot of people. He was one of my heroes. So that's the bottom line. When you're marketing your song, the more you've defined your strengths, your basic message, your basic style or genre, your basic audience and age and affluence and all those different things, the easier it is to sell. Then you realize if you're going to have an advertising budget, you want to it's just like advertisers advertise on certain channels. They advertise on certain times of day. Like on the radio, If you're writing a sweet love song, don't write it. Don't advertise Friday, Saturday night because everyone's partying. But Sunday morning, especially, it's a much more warm, intimate time. So anyway, I hope this gives you food for thought. And I'd like to open up for questions, and I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Kat. So opening it up to questions, and if you could try and use your reactions. This is for those in the room. For those who are watching virtually, you're watching this segment. Hey, Rodney. You're on mute.
Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Kat. Thank you so much. I always enjoy hearing your talks about these things. I wanted to talk to you a little about what I guess you would call pigeonholing. This isn't about writing a song. Anybody can write any song that they feel it, they can write it. This is more about marketing,
right.
More about if you're trying to pitch or sell. You talked about, okay, what side of the picket fence are your people on in the song? Well, if you write a song for people on, or let's say you write several songs for people on one side of the picket fence, are you kind of making yourself not able to sell songs for people on the other side of the picket fence, or like that? Or, if you write several R&B songs, are you making it difficult for you to sell a punk song? Whatever,
I understand that, and I have that problem because I write everything. And I got very early on, the songs that I got known for were really pretty R&B love songs. And obviously, I don't have a pretty R&B voice. And it's also not my point of view, but I had success with it. And people came to me, Cheryl Lynn, people came to me for an additional song. People with Motown came to me for something for Syreeta. I had a reputation for that. No, I don't think I could sell a punk song. The other reason from a marketing standpoint, you spend your time trying to make connections, like with music supervisors or with various people. Music supervisors want that genre absolutely defined. If you send something that isn't at all what they're looking for, they find that you're a rank amateur and they won't want to be, you won't have much cred with them. And I do have that problem. I love country music, but it's not my real strength. And to market something that's not, I'm much better off. By the way, I didn't mention everyone, I just started a YouTube channel. It's YouTube David Cat Cohen. And I have 20 available songs, which will expand to probably about 80 eventually. I have my 8 professional credits with Cheryl Lynn and my chicken commercial and the Undercover Brother and all that sort of stuff on there. And also I write musical theater, and I'm doing musical theater. And so I have that challenge. It's like I'm multifaceted. How can I best do? And already I had some offers in England about some of my R&B stuff. They would not be interested in my country stuff. They would not be interested in my musicals. And on my YouTube channel, I have blues, I have pop, I have rock. It's difficult to sell. And I'm also on SoundCloud. And when you go to SoundCloud, that's the first thing they ask you is your genre. And even in YouTube, they make playlists out of stuff that's comparable in the genre. And my most successful stuff on YouTube, they keep linking my songs with these R&B playlists because that's my reputation. So yes, if I had a punk song, it would be sort of self-defeating, unless I had an uncle who was in the punk business. Okay, does that give you a little idea?
Yeah, thank you. Dan has a question for you, Dan.
Sure.
I think, Kat, you kind of touched on this in the last question that you answered, but I've had the pleasure of you critiquing 2 of my songs in Songsalive over the years. And one question you asked me is what my genre was, and I kind of write all over the board. But it's kind of like you said, that like the Beatles were kind of wrote all over the board, but they started with and got their fame with a kind of a core sound. The thing is, they were inspiration for me, so I don't have a core sound. I don't know. So if you write all over the board, what's the best strategy?
You got to go with what your strength is, or what the particular song strength is, and go with that. Now, hey, if you're successful, doors will open in other ways as well, but you still have a reputation. It's very hard. They call that the sophomore jinx in the record business. It's like you can have a successful album, but your next album, it's got to be somewhat in the same mold. And if you jump shift and try something else, marketing and radio stations and all are going to be very confused. And if you're not really well known, well, you have an advantage. You don't have to deal with the sophomore jinx. You just want to get to your freshman year. So, I don't know what to say other than if you have a strong song, go with that and market it to those people for that audience. It's not an easy question to answer. And I know better. I wrote the book on it, and I still have problems. Okay.
Thank you. I have a question for you. Based on your, I guess you could call it your.
What did I do? Oops.
Yeah, no, I'm here. Can you hear me? Based on your longevity in the music business, Cat, what do you see as some of the trends for you as a writer who wants to consistently be current and authentically yourself? Like, what are some of the things you're needing to do now as a veteran, well-known songwriter to stay relevant for your own, in your own world, that we could be inspired by? Like some of the things, the habits, maybe things that you do.
Well, you have to listen. And sometimes I feel I haven't been doing it as much, but I took a little break from the industry and I've been coming back to it this year. And one of the things I would always do is go to Billboard Top 40. And now it's very easy because you can get these lists and you can just right there, you can hear songs. And God, everything's hip hop groove. It's just like the audience it's a younger audience. And it's the older I am, the farther I am from that younger audience. Yet to stay relative, it's important to see what people are doing. I have a very good friend. She's a collaborator, and we wrote the chicken commercial for Undercover Brother. She's been putting together a feminist rock band with progressive causes and championing the fight. And she had me do market research for her and go online. The only category I could see for her winning a Grammy, because the Grammys are a very good way to do genre, because you see all, and it was in rock. The other things would not work. And she's retro rock. She's 80s rock, which makes it even more of a narrow niche. So I had to go on and find stuff that there were about 5 or 6 acts. She was pitching it to radio stations, and they wanted to know who the band sounded like. And you see that on SoundCloud. You see that in a lot of places. You even have it in your form, right? So that's a way of marketing, is who out there has already paved the road. You don't want to be Daniel Boone and have to blaze your own trail. You can, but that's lonely and very much of a long shot. So does that give you a little bit of an idea?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Anyone else would like to ask a question?
I have a question.
Yes. Hi, Don.
Yeah, so Kat, when you were describing the different categories that you might fall into as far as genre is concerned, you were talking in terms of being an artist. each of those examples was as an artist. So I'm not an artist, I'm a songwriter, a non-performing songwriter. I get demos made. And when I write a song, I then have to figure, okay, what market would this be best in? So I have some that turn out to be country productions and others turn out to be adult contemporary. My best performing song is one that's a bluegrass song. So if you were going to put your songs out someplace like on Spotify, would you take different songs and put them in different groups and have more than one group out there? Or how would you handle that?
It's what I'm doing and putting my SoundCloud, not my SoundCloud, my YouTube channel. I'm making playlists. So gonna have an R&B playlist. Eventually I'll have a country playlist. So someone looking for country, go to this playlist. I have my musical, it's called Oh Shit, I'm Gonna Live, about a reluctant AIDS survivor. It's a hysterically funny show, but it's not for most people. But for someone in the musical theater, I'm very influenced by Stephen Sondheim and stuff. And so I don't want anyone playing that and mixing it up with my R&B. And I also write classical music, and I'm going to have a classical playlist. So I would say, now I don't know about SoundCloud, if they allow you to do that, but I think that's the way to do it. Have a country playlist, have an adult contemporary, have a traditional pop, because that's what they do. Look at the Grammys. Look at their categories. That's the best guideline you have, and see which category they have and make a playlist within that category. So people from the get-go say, well, I don't want this country stuff, but this pop stuff might be good for me.
So it sounds like
we're going to take one more question. I think Lisa, you had your hand up. Did you want to go?
Yeah, but I've got a feeling this one might not be something we can answer, because it's about that. How do you say who you sound like? I've been running into that because I want to put myself up, some of my stuff up on Spotify and just upload some of my stuff, but I don't know how to categorize myself. I mean, largely I would say acoustic, just I don't know. And so,
well,
because you get that question all the time, who do you sound like? Who are you similar to? And I sound like me for the most part, most of the time.
But which Grammy category would you be in? Country? Because you kind of sounded sort of country-ish to me, not pure Nashville, but I think a country audience would kind of like what you were doing.
Some of my stuff is, because I do write like you, like I've got some stuff that's more rock, some stuff that's more country, some that's, I don't know what it is.
It's something that each of us has to grapple with. And I would ask people, perform people, and ask them what you sound like. Try to get feedback from others.
I'm going to continue to do that.
That's great.
Good.
All right, I think we're going to wrap this up. Cat, thank you so much for speaking to us today. If everyone can just give a little round of applause, you can unmute, you clap. Awesome. Cat, would you like to share, a little bit about where we can find your work and how you would like to where should we go? And we'll also show that later when we share the recording.
Sure. Well, basically, don't look for Cat Cohen anymore. There's a comedian named Cat Cohen. She owns everything but catcohen.com. I have that. If you want to look at my songwriting analysis and stuff about songwriting, go to catcohen.com. But she owns everything else with Cat Cohen. Even when you go to YouTube, you have to use David Cat Cohen. And there are 500 David Cohens, which is why I used Cat in the first place. So the best place to hear my stuff is YouTube, David Cat Cohen. And then I'm on Amazon. And again, you have to go David Cat Cohen, and then writing and marketing songs. And it's on there right now. And it's not backwards like this.
Yeah, we're going to definitely have it on the songsalive.org store as well, linking to your Amazon. So we'll make sure that we'll do that, Kat.
Super.
Great. Thank you so much for speaking to us today. It's been awesome. Songs Alive is a nonprofit 501c3 organization run by volunteer songwriters. We've been around over 20 years, and we're very excited to do this every month with different speakers. So go to songsalive.org to find out our next speaker. Thank you so much.